My phone buzzed again on the table. It moved a little like it wanted to run away. The screen kept lighting up with names I knew well. Mom, Dad, Ethan. The same three people again and again, like a bad dream that would not stop. 6 months ago, I walked out of our house in Tulsa. There were no loud fights. No crying. I just left quietly after my mom shouted at me one last time. She said, "You ungrateful brat. Get out and do not come back." I did not say anything. Not because I was trying to be strong. I was just too tired. After years of feeling invisible, I had nothing left to say. Now I live alone in a small apartment in North Oklahoma City. Everything looks old and tired, but it is mine. There is no one yelling at me. No one blaming me for things I did not do. Just the quiet sound of the ceiling fan and sunlight slipping through the curtains. The phone lit up again. It was Mom. For the 5th time. A message appeared before the ringtone. It said, "Naomi, if you still care about this family, please answer. Ethan is overwhelmed." I stared at the message. I had heard that line too many times before. Ethan is struggling. Ethan needs you. Ethan is your little brother. He was the one Mom always protected, from when he was 10 until now, even though he is 31. He never had a real job, but somehow always had the best clothes, the newest game consoles, and someone to clean up after him. That person used to be me. I used to work 60 hours a week at an insurance office, then come home to fix broken lights, make dinner, and pay the bills. I was the good daughter who kept the family going with no sleep and too much stress. I thought if I just worked harder, maybe they would finally see me. I was wrong. I turned the phone to silent and placed it face down. But the buzzing still rang in my head. Still, I was okay. I had learned how to stay calm. I had learned how to let them panic without getting pulled back in. The day I left, the sky was clear. No rain. No warning. I packed a few clothes, my laptop, and my old teddy bear. I rolled my suitcase to the door, locked it, and walked away like I was ending a sentence. They told me I was not welcome. I respected that. What they never expected was that I would actually stay away. Mom still sends emails every week. Dad sends short messages like, "You should not let your emotions control you." Ethan? He never said sorry. But yesterday, he finally sent a message. He wrote, "I cannot believe you left Mom and Dad like this. The whole family is suffering because of you." Suffering? Because I stopped paying their water bill and house mortgage? I leaned back in my chair. My back hurt from how old and hard the seat was. But I took a deep breath and realized something. The silence did not scare me anymore. Now it felt clear. It was proof I could live without them. Every time the phone buzzed, it reminded me not of guilt, but of the freedom I had earned. For 6 months, I had not answered. Not because I was being mean, but because I had to teach myself to stop reacting to fake emergencies. I was used to being forgotten. But being treated like I did not matter, like the bathroom light or the Wi-Fi, was something I only learned to name later. When I was 11, I remember Ethan scratching Dad's truck. It was a gray Ford F-150. Dad always called it his third child. Ethan backed it up without opening the garage door all the way and left a huge scratch across the side. Mom saw it first. She gasped. Then she turned to me and asked, "Naomi, did you touch the truck?" I froze. I had been at school that whole day. I even had a math test that morning. I did not come home for lunch. But still, she blamed me. Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table eating cold pizza like nothing had happened. And honestly, nothing ever did happen to him. The unfairness in our house did not come suddenly like a storm. It came slowly, like mold, creeping into everything. You only noticed it once you could not breathe anymore. They never called me smart. They were never proud of me. Even when I got straight A's, honor rolls, and state math awards, it was treated like it was just what I was supposed to do. But when Ethan went to all his classes for just 1 week, they clapped for him like he won a medal. I worked at a steakhouse in Norman for 3 years during college. I got off at 10 p.m. every night, my hands hurting from carrying hot plates. Then I went home and studied for the CPA exams. Ethan went to college for recreational sports and dropped out halfway. Mom said, "It is just not his learning style." One time I had a fever of 103 degrees. I had to drive myself to the hospital because no one could take me. But when Ethan had a stomach ache from eating too many fries, Mom called an ambulance. Both Mom and Dad went to the emergency room with him. All I got was a text message. There are instant noodles at home. I will not be back in time. 6 years ago, when I got my first full-time job at the insurance company, I called home to share the good news. My dad only said, "Good. Do not forget to keep up with your health insurance." But when Ethan got invited to a weekend woodworking class, everyone in the family posted about it online like he had gotten into Harvard. I used to think that if I did everything right, they would treat me equally. I believed that if I stayed quiet and worked hard, they would finally see me as part of the family. But I was wrong. One night, I came home after a long work shift. My back and neck were hurting badly. I saw Mom sitting on the couch with Ethan. They were flipping through a photo album. I saw only one photo of me. It was old, faded, and had no name under it. Ethan had 3 whole pages labeled, "Our Angel's Childhood." I stood there, waiting for someone to notice me. No one looked at me. No one spoke. No one asked if I had eaten. I went in my room, closed the door, and for the first time, I dreamed of running. Not running away, but running towards something better. I had lived almost 30 years in that house. I thought it was a home. But I now knew it never truly was. Not for me. I was not a daughter. I was just someone they used. I was the one who carried the load. The one who held everything together while they relaxed. As I grew older, I saw the truth. Every time they praised Ethan, it felt like they were ignoring everything I had done. They did not want me to shine. They just wanted me to stay quiet and keep giving. I still remember when everything started falling apart. It was in February, 1 week before the tax deadline. I had worked 40 hours in just 3 days. I left work at 11:45 p.m., tired and dizzy from the street lights. I still had to finish a report at home. Mom called as I opened the car door. She said, "Naomi, sorry to bother you, but the gas bill is almost $190. Your dad forgot to pay. Can you help just this once? I will pay you back tomorrow." I stood there, tired, my work badge still on. I had heard that promise before. But her voice made me give in. I sent the money right there in the parking lot and drove home like it was nothing. But that was only the beginning. The next week it was the electricity bill. Then water. Then internet. At first, she said it was just short-term help. Later, it turned into, family helps each other. And Dad? He just said, "Yeah, Naomi's got it." No one asked if I could afford it. No one cared they were calling late at night. I had a job, so I was expected to pay. A month later, Ethan missed payments on his laptop. Mom called me during a meeting. "Sweetheart, Ethan is really struggling. Can you co-sign for a replacement? It is only $950. I will pay you back slowly." I knew what slowly meant. But I said yes. Back then, I did not understand that love, when used like this, stops being love. Within 3 months, I was paying over $200 a month for their bills. I used my banking app so often that I set reminders. Some months, I said I needed to save a little for myself. Mom sighed and said, "I did not think you would be so selfish. We are struggling." One Saturday, I came home with heavy grocery bags. I had bought food, detergent, toilet paper, and almond milk. Ethan was lying on the couch, eating pizza and watching YouTube. No one helped me. No one asked if I was tired. Mom called from her room, "Did you get Dad's favorite cookies?" I did not answer. I opened the fridge. The only things that were mine were a bottle of water and half a lemon. That night, I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet. I wrote down every bill I had paid: electricity, gas, water, Ethan's car, medicine, Dad's debts. I even included the laptop I had co-signed. At the bottom, the number showed over $16,000 in 6 months. I printed it out and taped it to the wall. Not to ask for money back, but to remind myself never to lie again. I was not giving out of love. I was being drained. I started saying no quietly. I said no when they asked me to drive Ethan to renew his license. Mom called me, her voice shaking. You have changed. You are cold and selfish. Dad texted me. You need to know your place. Ethan messaged me too. Do not think money makes you special. I used to think that if I gave enough, they would value me. But when I kept a little for myself, they acted like I betrayed them. That night, I could not sleep. Not because I was angry, but because I finally saw the truth. They never saw me as someone with limits, just someone to use. I was the one who held the family up. But even strong pillars fall when no one supports them. That Saturday, I left work around 6 p.m. I was still carrying the lunch I had not eaten. The whole week had been packed with work. I had meetings, emergencies, and barely made it home before dark. Still, I stopped at the store. I picked up almond milk, lean beef, olive oil, and bread. It cost $175. I also bought fruit and snacks for Ethan. He never said thank you. I drove 40 minutes back to the old house in East Tulsa, where I had lived for 20 years. Every time I turned onto that street, my chest felt tight. Not because of good memories, but because of pain. The house lights were already on. The door was slightly open. I pushed it with my shoulder. My hands were full. No one came to greet me. A TV show was playing in the living room. One of Ethan's favorites. I set the groceries down. The smell of cleaning products filled the air. Mom cleaned a lot on weekends, not to make the house clean, but to prove she still had control. But I was the one buying all her supplies. I turned around. She was already standing in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, eyes cold. We need to talk, she said sharply. I froze. I just got off work. Can I have a minute? No, she snapped. This cannot wait. Dad was behind her, silent. Ethan was on the couch with his feet on the table, playing video games. He did not even look up. Just mumbled, "Is she here?" I held my bag tighter. What is going on? Mom sighed like I was the problem. Naomi, you have a job, a car, your own apartment. We are struggling. Your dad is tired. Ethan is still figuring things out. I think it is time you helped more. I stood still. I had already been paying the bills, electricity, gas, water, internet, even part of the mortgage, for almost 2 years. I send over $1,000 every month. What more do you want? Dad spoke in a calm voice. This is about responsibility, Naomi. Family means being responsible. You're an adult now. You should understand that. I nodded, my voice tight. Then what is Ethan? A guest who lives here for free. Ethan finally turned around. He dropped his game controller and said with a smirk, "Do not drag me into this. I never asked you for anything. If you do not want to help, just stop. Stop acting like you're doing us a favor." I let out a dry laugh. My chest felt tight like I had been hit. The truth is, I was never pretending. I was generous. I gave because I cared. Mom slammed her hand on the kitchen table. Enough. You are getting more selfish every day, Naomi. You live alone now, and you act like you're better than us. This house is at risk of being taken away. Ethan's student loan was denied. Your dad lost his health insurance. And you sit there counting dollars like we are just a burden. I looked around at all of them. This house I helped keep from falling apart. These people who never once asked how I was doing. If I had food. If I had ever skipped rent just to help them. So what is this really about? I asked. Do you want my whole paycheck? Do you want me to pay off the mortgage? Buy Ethan a new car so he can finally feel like doing something. Ethan stood up, glaring. You're out of line, Naomi. I looked him straight in the eyes. Out of line? I work over 60 hours a week. I gave up my personal life to keep this house running. And you? You sit here playing games and making demands. What have you done? No one answered. Dad held the brim of his cap and said quietly, if you were a responsible daughter, you'd understand. I was not angry anymore. I just felt empty. So if I stop paying, I stop being your daughter? No one said a word. I picked up my bag and walked to the door. Cold air hit my face like a quiet slap. But it cleared my head. I did not slam the door. I did not yell. I just said softly, then this house no longer has a daughter named Naomi. No one replied. The room went quiet, like all the air had disappeared. Ethan stood still, holding a water bottle he never opened. Dad stared at the floor. Mom looked at me like I was a stranger. Not sad. Not angry. Just cold. Get out, she said, voice sharp. If you leave this family now, don't you ever come back. I stayed still. Dad looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't. He sighed and looked away. Ethan smirked, like he had been expecting this moment. I opened my mouth, maybe to explain, maybe to say something. But I closed it again. Because I realized something surprising, I did not feel pain. I felt light. Still holding the grocery bag, I stepped back. The door was behind me. The streetlights outside cast a long shadow on the floor. I turned, pushed the door open. Before I left, I looked back one last time. No one looked at me. No one asked me to stay. The door clicked shut behind me. It felt final, like a blade cutting the last thread that tied me to that house. Outside, the cold air felt sharper than I expected. I could smell wet grass. The dry wind blew gently through the trees. I walked to my car, placed the bag in the seat next to me, and sat behind the wheel. I did not start the car right away. I just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring ahead. No tears. No shaking. No regret. I always thought I would cry like a child when this moment came. But I didn't. Instead, I felt a quiet kind of peace. Like there was finally space in my chest to breathe. I drove away slowly. Each streetlight I passed felt like the end of a sentence. I knew a chapter of my life had ended. Not with a big moment. Just silence that would never be undone. I did not play music. I did not call anyone. Just the sound of the car tires on the road. It felt calm. Peaceful. No one waiting on me. No one asking for money. No one texting for just one more thing. By the time I got home, it was close to 8 p.m. I carried the grocery bags upstairs to my second-floor apartment. It was small. Warm. The lights were soft yellow. The smell of lavender oil still floated in the air. I set the bags on the counter. Took off my shoes. Hung up my coat. Everything I did felt slow, peaceful. Like I had just stepped out of a storm I never realized I had been in. I poured a glass of water and sat on the couch. That is when I started to shake. Not from fear. But because for the first time, my body felt safe enough to relax. I looked around. Everything was old. A table from a garage sale. A faded couch. A plant in the corner that had just grown a new leaf after I had forgotten to water it. But it was mine. My space. No one to judge me. No one to guilt me. No stairs to climb while pretending I was fine. I opened my laptop and looked at my budget spreadsheet. The total showed $19, 840.17. That is how much I had given since January. No paybacks. No thank yous. No promises kept. I added one final line, freedom. Cost, priceless. Then I closed the laptop. I did not need to look at it again. That night, I slept a full 8 hours. No dreams. No texts from Ethan. Just the sound of the ceiling fan and my heartbeat, calm and steady. 3 days later, I was alone in my kitchen, frying eggs in an old pan I got from Facebook Marketplace. The butter sizzled. The smell of coffee filled the room. And the strangest part? No one was calling me. No texts about plumbing bills. No requests to cover medicine or buy food for Ethan. For the first time in years, I had breakfast without checking my bank account. And I did not feel guilty for spending money on myself. I placed my coffee down and looked out the window. The April breeze still had a little chill. But it no longer hurt. It felt like a soft whisper saying, "You're alive. You deserve peace." I started building a new rhythm. Every night after work, I closed my laptop by 6 p.m. I stopped answering late emails. I signed up for a yoga class on Wednesdays. I went to the farmer's market on Saturdays and learned that spring tomatoes are sweeter than I ever knew. I bought books I had once thought were too expensive. I started planting herbs on my balcony. Rosemary. Lavender. A little mint plant I accidentally gave too much water. But somehow, the old pain still lived inside me. In the quiet evenings, I began to understand something. Silence was not scary like I used to think it was. Back in that old house, silence always meant something bad. When Mom was silent, she was angry. When Dad was silent, it meant he was judging me. And when Ethan was silent, It meant he was thinking of what to ask from me next. But in my new place, silence meant something different. It meant peace. It meant no one needed anything from me. And that was not selfish. That was freedom. For the first time in over 10 years, I could save money for myself. I even opened a new bank account just for personal dreams. I wanted to take a trip to Colorado. I needed a new laptop. Maybe I would hire someone to help me learn more about money and investing. Add a sentence and folded the page. It said, asterisk, you do not owe anyone the slow erosion of your life, just to keep them comfortable. Asterisk, that line stayed with me. I had spent so many years believing that family meant giving everything, all the time. I thought I had to carry everyone on my back, no matter how tired I was. But then I realized something important. Helping people does not mean you have to destroy yourself. Carrying others should not mean burning your own light. In early May, I met Macy, an old friend from college, at a work seminar. We had lunch together. She looked at me closely and said, "You're doing better, aren't you? You look like the Naomi I knew in freshman year, only stronger." I smiled. I did not have to explain anything. The way I sat upright, not holding my phone like someone was about to ask for money, not checking the time every second, that was my answer. I never blocked Mom, Dad, or Ethan. But I turned off their notifications. Not to avoid them, but to protect myself. Over the past 6 months, they still sent texts. Some were full of blame. Some pretended like nothing had ever happened. Others begged for help. But I never replied. Because I learned something important. Replying is not always kindness. Sometimes silence is self-defense. That night, while I was cleaning up after dinner, I opened the mail. There were the usual flyers and ads. But there was also a thin envelope. The return address was from the bank. Mom's name was at the top, but mine was printed in the corner. I opened it. It was a third mortgage delinquency notice. I stood still. My chest got tight. Then I folded the letter and set it down. I took a deep breath. I already knew this day would come. And this time, I was ready. The next day, while I was working on a quarterly report at the office, I got a message from Dad. Just 8 words. "Naomi, why haven't you paid this month?" I read it 3 times. My eyes stopped at the word paid, like it was still my job. Like I was still their financial system, even though they never really asked. Just expected. I shut my laptop. Then I opened my phone and checked my banking app. I had not sent them money in 6 months. I thought that made it clear. But I guess they thought I was just taking a break. I checked my old payment history. I had been sending $1, $300 every month to help with the mortgage, as Mom said. But I never saw the actual bill. My name was not on any document. I had no legal responsibility. But something bothered me, so I called the bank. After a few rings, someone picked up. I gave them the address and asked about the house. The woman on the phone paused, then said, "That account is 8 months behind. It's in pre-foreclosure." The final notice was sent about 3 weeks ago. I stood there frozen. 8 months? That meant even while I was still sending money, they had stopped paying the mortgage. I hung up numb. All those nights I worked extra hours, skipped meals, and paid on time, none of it had gone to the house. They never even told me. I opened my budget spreadsheet. I checked every transfer. From the first month I helped until the last time, I had sent over $18,000. And now the house was about to be taken. I called Ethan. He picked up fast. "Naomi, finally." "Mom's freaking out." The bank sent another letter. "What's your plan?" I blinked. "My plan? I'm not part of that house anymore." He sighed loudly. "Don't play dumb. You were paying the mortgage. Then you just stopped. Now the bank's ready to take the house. Don't you feel responsible?" I bit my lip. What about the money I already sent? 8 full months. Who used it? Where did it go? He went quiet. Then said flatly, "I don't know. Mom said you were only covering part of it. So we came up short. She probably used the rest." I interrupted him. "You live there. You didn't see the warning letters from the bank? You didn't wonder why the lights were being shut off, then back on? You didn't ask where the mortgage payments went, even though I was sending money every month." His voice got sharp. "What are you trying to say? We're struggling. You're out there living comfortably, and we're about to lose the house. One more payment, Naomi. That's all it takes. Then the bank will work with us. I laughed, cold and tired. I'm not your backup plan anymore, Ethan. And don't say we. I'm not part of your group. I hung up. 3 minutes later, Mom called. I let the phone ring. My chest tightened, but I did not answer. I did not give in. A text came through right after. Short sentences. Naomi, I'm sorry if you felt pressured. But this house is yours too. You grew up here. You'll regret it if we lose it. I did not reply because for the first time in my life, I saw it clearly. They never truly saw me as their daughter. They saw me as their safety net. Their emergency fund. A walking wallet. Someone they could use every time they made a mistake. I looked at the letter from the bank, still sitting on my table. Then I tore it in half. Not because I was angry, but because I had accepted the truth. I could not save a house I never owned. Just like I had never really belonged in that family. That night, I opened my phone and scrolled through the long line of texts from Mom. It took 3 full swipes just to get to the first one. Naomi, I know you're upset, but it's not as simple as you think. Your dad lost his insurance. Ethan has no one else to rely on but you. If you let the bank take the house, people will say you're heartless. Then came one from Dad. Sweetheart, this is still your home. Do you really want to see us out on the street? And from Ethan, as cold as ever. Fine. Walk away. Let's see who helps you when you need something. I looked at the screen. I felt nothing. Not hurt. Not angry. Just a chilling clarity. They had built an entire system around me, a system where kindness was something I owed, and silence meant permission. Every time I helped, they acted like it was expected. Every time I stayed quiet, they assumed I was weak. I called them back. Not because they deserved an explanation, but because I deserved closure. Mom answered on the first ring. I could hear background noise, the table tapping, Dad sighing, Ethan nearby. She put me on speaker. Naomi? She said sweetly. Her voice made my skin crawl. I just want to ask one thing, ****, I said. 8 months ago, I was still sending the mortgage money. Where did it go? There was silence. Then Mom stammered. Well, your dad needed dental work. And Ethan's car broke down. You know how everything is so expensive now. I meant to sort it out later, but ****. I cut her off. So you spent the money I sent on other things. And let the house fall into foreclosure. Dad jumped in. We didn't mean for this to happen. But you left right when things got bad. If you had stayed, maybe none of this would have happened. I scoffed. No. If I had stayed, you would have kept hiding the truth. Still spent my money. Still expected me to clean up your mess, just like always. Mom snapped. Don't be so ungrateful, Naomi. I carried you for 9 months. And now we're about to lose our home, and you just walk away. I'm not ungrateful, ****, I said calmly. But I'm not stupid anymore either. Silence. Then I continued. I'm your daughter. Not your financial rescue plan. I'm not your personal bank. I'm not your last option. And I'm not the excuse you use to avoid your own responsibilities. Ethan shouted in the background. You think you're so special. Without us, you'd be nothing. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it confirmed everything I had always suspected. I didn't succeed because of you, ****, I said. I succeeded despite you. Mom started crying. Dad let out a long sigh. Ethan mumbled something I could not hear. I no longer cared. I wish you all the best, ****, I said. But from now on, you own your choices. And if anyone asks why I cut ties, tell them the truth. You spent the money I sent. Then you hid the truth from me. I hung up. My hand did not shake. My heartbeat stayed steady. Then I opened my contacts. Mom blocked. Dad blocked. Ethan blocked. Not out of hate, but because I needed peace. I sent one final message to the family group chat. I'm not your backup plan anymore. Goodbye. Then I left the group. And for the first time in years, my phone was silent. No guilt-filled texts. No midnight calls. No ringing like an alarm telling me I had done something wrong. I made myself a cup of peppermint tea and sat on the sofa. Outside the window, The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with orange. I leaned back, eyes closed. I felt empty, but in the best way. Free. I did not know how they would move forward, who they'd find to take the blame, what story they would tell the neighbors. But I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer part of that story. Asterisk, asterisk. Naomi's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes family doesn't come with respect. Asterisk, asterisk. Walking away from toxic relationships, even ones called family, is not selfish. It is brave. It is necessary for survival. Many people silently carry heavy burdens, believing they owe their lives to others. But real love never demands you sacrifice your identity or your peace. You have every right to say enough. What do you think about Naomi's decision? Asterisk, asterisk. What would you have done in her shoes? Asterisk, asterisk. Let us know in the comments and follow the channel for more real-life stories about family, boundaries, and self-worth.